Welcome to Speak for Yourself. I'm Emmanuel Acho. My main man, Marcellus Wiley, he's out getting his grill fixed, but he'll be back tomorrow. So it's time for me to take the brakes off and keep this train rolling. We're going to begin with a rewarding performance sponsored by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And Tom Brady, he's rewarding all NFL fans by continuing to play despite turning 43 this week. Brady spent his first 20 seasons in New England building a ridiculous resume. But now he's taking his GOAT status to Tampa, where expectations are through the roof. Brady addressed the media today and said he's got some learning to do. Let's take a listen.
For me, changing teams after a long period of time, giving me an opportunity to really look at myself and what I want to continue to, achieve in my career and think that I can bring to a team. It's been different having the opportunity, over this time to, move and then to, for example, study my playbook. I mean, I really haven't had to do that in 19 years.
Tom Brady studying his playbook. I'm joined now by NFL analyst LeVar Arrington and big bro Mark Schlereth. But, LeVar, I'm going to start with you. What is Brady's main motivation right now to keep playing?
Well, first of all, I thought I was your main man, Nacho, so that kind of deflated me a tad bit just off the top of the show. And, Marcellus, I hope that it's not a nose job and you truly are getting your teeth cleaned.
It might be.
Let me jump on this one. When I look at everything that has taken place with Tom Brady and getting to this interview today and how somber and how calm and collected Tom was while doing his interview, it just made me think about a lot of moments in my career where you have so many introspective conversations and thoughts as it applies to oneself. So with all the success that Tom Brady has had during the course of his year or his career, I believe his motivation is just to prove to Tom at this point, Tom Brady can be Tom Brady. And I don't know that it goes any deeper than that. I mean, he's talking about not having to look at his playbook for all these years. So to think that he's gotten so comfortable and so confident in his ability to know the plays and how those plays apply to the defensive schemes that he's going to see. He mentioned there's not a defense that I haven't seen. There's not an offensive play I haven't ran, but yet I still have to pay attention to the mental aspect of what comes to my career at 43 years old. So I think he just wants to prove. I don't think that it comes down to him winning it all or proving that Bill Belichick wasn't the reason he had success. I think this is really an opportunity for Tom Brady to prove something to himself. And I think that it's just Tom being Tom Brady.
See, LeVar, I got to disagree with you because while intrinsic motivation or motivation that comes from within is what advanced Tom Brady's career, at this point in his career, bro, I think it's all about the external or the extrinsic. Tom Brady has, 6 Super Bowls, 17 times he won the AFC East. But Brady ain't never do it without Belichick. And when I listened to his quotes, I don't know what y'all heard, I don't know what the fans heard, but what I heard was, I still have a lot left to prove now that I've come to a new organization. Well, the only thing Tom Brady has left to prove is to win again, because that's all he's ever done is win. But every time he's won with that one man with the cutoff hoodie, still wearing the hood, and Bill Belichick. So Tom Brady, while he has proven himself to be elite, while he has proven himself to be the GOAT, what he hasn't done, the one thing Tom Brady has yet to do is prove that he can win without Bill. Meanwhile, Bill had that season, as we talked about before, 2008. Tom Brady goes down, ACL injury week 1, and Bill Belichick still leads the Patriots team to an 11-5 record. So Bill Belichick has still proven, even despite Tom Brady, he can still get things done. I don't think, LeVar, that Tom Brady is as, selflessly thinking about this as far as it's just about me versus myself. I think this isn't a Tom versus time thing anymore. This is strictly Tom versus Bill. Who was the real GOAT if we gotta split hairs? That's what Tom's thinking to me.
See, and I would disagree with that in this. It's about players, systems, and what you're doing offensively. It's the same from team to team. It may be called something different, but if you're running a stick concept, you're running a stick concept, whether you're running it in New England or you're running it in Tampa Bay. Those things don't change to me. So the bottom line, when I look at Tom Brady, it's this internal competition You against yourself. What can you continue to produce? Here's the thing about playing is if it was just about lining up on Sunday, we'd all still be playing, all of us. It's your willingness to prepare Monday through Saturday that makes most of us walk away from this game. And the fact that that guy is still motivated to grind, he's still motivated to work every day to get better. That's the thing that amazes me about Tom Brady and Tom Brady's career. And he's out to prove to himself that he can still do it. Yeah, there's part of that. I want to do it without Bill Belichick. I want to do it on my own. I want to do it in a different place. But the energy that comes from going somewhere else, your ability to go out there and do it somewhere else, I think that's amazing for him. And I just think his competitive nature is such that that's what he wants to do, is prove it to himself that he can go out there and continue to play at the level that he has always played at.
But here is where I challenge both of you extremely intelligent men. If it was all about Tom versus Tom, why in the world would Tom Brady have to leave? It couldn't have just been about, I have to be better than my former self. I have to be better than my former self. You can stay in New England and be better than your former self. What changed by leaving New England? What you changed was the coaching situation. If he was just competing against Tom, Tom can do that in Foxborough. Tom doesn't have to go down to Tampa to compete against himself. That, to me, is where the flaw is in your logic in saying that it's just a Tom versus Tom thing.
I think you're missing a small piece to this puzzle.
What's the piece?
Tom Brady has had to have very uncomfortable conversations with a Tom Brady. And I think those conversation guests were with his wife and with his kids. And when you're sitting on that couch and you're doing that interview of the people that mean the most to you in your life, it does not come down to the Super Bowls that he's going to be able to win without Bill Belichick. It does not come down to justifying himself by winning without being in New England with Bill Belichick and his hood. It comes down to, what do I feel about my wife? What do I feel about my kids? What is the legacy that I'm building, not just when I was in New England, but what am I building by being a Tampa Bay Buccaneer? And I think those conversations that he's had with his family and with himself has ultimately led him down the path of saying, listen, there's something to this, the food that I'm eating, the way that I'm living my life. He alluded to it several different times in his interview that this is something about a life journey for Tom Brady. So at the level.
Well, speaking of uncomfortable conversations with wives and kids, that's something I know nothing about, LeVar. So I'm going to have to go and move on to another uncomfortable conversation I was reading about earlier today. Today is the deadline for players to opt out of playing in the NFL season. Bills cornerback Tre'Davious White, he's currently considering that. Now, mind you, this is a top-tier, top-flight cornerback, and he's considering the possibility of opting out. Well, fans are questioning the all-pros intentions. White was having none of that. He clapped back at his critics this morning, tweeting, "Crazy that me choosing my family's well-being over a game comes with so-called fans attacking and questioning me, saying I'm selfish. No, you guys are selfish for thinking that football is bigger than life. Oh, by the way, my girl's grandfather passed from COVID. You understand now? So, Slareth, I'm going to start with you, going to you first. Do you understand the fans' frustration with NFL players opting out?
I do understand the frustration because fans don't think that NFL players are human. They can't get beyond the money. They can't get beyond, that we're entertainment figures. And I understand that aspect of it. So I understand why they're upset. But when you humanize the fan, you see exactly what he said about his girlfriend's grandfather. What you have to understand is every day when you leave that facility as a player, you're writing your own story. And you're walking home to a family, to a wife, to kids, to your parents, to your grandparents, to all these people that you're accountable for. And sometimes the least selfish thing you can do is say, hey, man, I have to opt out because I have situations at home that if I bring this home, I'm jeopardizing somebody's health in my own family. So you have to understand that players want to play. I mean, playing football in the NFL is all I ever wanted to do since the time I was 12. It is the lifeblood that courses through my veins. That's what I love. And all these players sacrifice for the game that they love. And to say I'm going to walk away because of these other external factors, that's the most unselfish thing you can do as a player. I understand where the fans come from. We want to be entertained. But I think you have to take a step back and really understand that these players are human. And oftentimes we make them robots. We make them less than human. We say to them, hey, you're not allowed to have emotions. Well, we do. And, I'll tell you my own career, LeVar, you played for Washington, the Washington football team. When the Washington football team told me I could no longer play, I'm still pissed. They told me, we don't think you're good anymore. You can no longer play. By the way, Washington football team, I went on to play 6 more years, go to Pro Bowls, and win 2 Super Bowls. But, who's counting? I'm counting because it pissed me off.
I'm with you. And I get that. Listen, I think there's too many things to be excited about going into this season. It's always a next man up type of deal when you're looking at the ultimate team sport of football. It's interesting to me. You got to go back to the genesis of all of this when you're talking about when fans are involved with the conversation. Fan is short for fanatic. So when fanatic is in play, you can't really exercise true discretion and caution and sensibility when thinking about how your favorite player is going to impact your team by doing something like, possibly saving their life or somebody else's life. It makes a little bit of sense, but man, I just can't seem to find a comfort zone of knowing that it's that serious where he's going to opt out. That's the definition of a fanatic. And that's why fans will ultimately have opinions that maybe not be so flattering of the person that chose to make that personal life decision. But with that being said, there are other players. Can somebody step up in the absence of Tre'Davious, excuse me. There are so many different storylines that can take place and unfold in times like these. And you sometimes actually discover a star, a gem, a hidden gem. Maybe it's a Acho. It's a Emmanuel Acho that gets an opportunity to step in there and become something special because, somebody else chose to opt out based upon personal reasons.
Opt out or go to the dentist. But speaking of, LeVar, I'll talk to the optimism of, yes, you might find a diamond in the rough during a time like this. That is true. But fans, I do understand where you're coming from, and I understand the frustration. One, when talking about Tre'Davious White, you're talking about a top-flight cornerback. Didn't allow a touchdown reception all of last season. Co-leader in the NFL in interception. So we're not just talking about a bum. We're not talking about a 52nd, 53rd guy on the depth chart. We're talking about an all-pro talent. I also understand that fans feel a little sense of ownership to a degree over these players because fans can oftentimes think that the game wouldn't exist without me. I'm the one that's buying tickets. I'm the one cheering you on. While it's a game to several players, I understand that the fans may think it's a job in their minds. But I really look at it like this. The players are opting out. And sure, they might be making a $150,000 advance. And fans are like, you opting out, you still getting a 6-figure salary. Those are the comments I read. But remember, the average NFL salary is $2 million. $150,000, that's only 7%. The average median salary for the working person is $50,000. So if you take 7% of that, it's $3,500. You have to look at things in context, and that's what I would challenge the fans to do. If you were offered a certain amount of money that would allow you to sit and chill and protect yourself, you would probably do the same thing. So I understand the frustration, but I think we can all speak to this. The fan's not going to be there when you break your leg. The fan's not going to be there when you get cut. The fan's not going to be there when you get traded. So I understand the frustration. If nothing else, our jobs more than anybody depends on some of these players playing. But the players got to do what they have to do as well.
I think that continues to speak to the point of, again, taking your best interest and weighing your best interest out to your benefit, the benefit of your personal needs in terms of your family and yourself. And again, when we talk about fans, it's not going to register the things that you just said, putting it in context, understanding it from a percentages standpoint. It's just not worth it to a fan to go down that lane. Very few will take that path to come to a conclusion. So when looking at a fan's expectations, your fans' expectations are always going to exceed what it is that you're doing unless you win the Super Bowl, unless you're the MVP, unless you're the best of the best. I know for me, I always had to make a LeVar leap. I wasn't able to just make a regular tackle. Once you do something and the fans get a hold of it, that's what they expect you to do every single time. And that's it. Their own interest. It's funny because Tre'Davious is taking his own interest in heart. A fan will always take his own interest, their own interest to heart and to mind when making their decisions and opinions.
Here's what you have to understand about the fans, and I'm going to make a lot of fans angry right now. Most of you say that I'd play for free if I had your talent. No, you wouldn't, because if you can get paid to play, you're going to get paid. That's just a fact. And the other thing is, you guys who say, hey, I was close, I could have. No, you couldn't. One, you weren't athletically gifted enough, and two, you're not tough enough.
You got it. Don't do it like that, Mark. Don't do it.
That's the truth.
That's the way.
That's the truth.
If I had $1 for every time somebody told me, well, if it wasn't for this
busted my knee,
I'd have made it in the NFL. No, you wouldn't. Because you got to not only play hurt, you got to play injured.
Right.
And if you don't, we'll find somebody else to do it. So just understand that, one, you weren't blessed enough athletically, and two, you weren't blessed enough to be tough enough to play in the league. That's just the bottom line. So don't be mad that he decided to opt out and he's that talented.
Here's the thing about home security companies. Most trap you with high prices, tricky contracts, and lousy customer support. So while there are a lot of options out there, there's only one no-brainer: Simply Safe. Simply Safe's got everything you need to protect your home, with none of the drawbacks of traditional home security. It's got an arsenal of sensors and cameras to blanket every room, window and door tailored specifically for your home. Professional monitoring keeps watch day and night, ready to send police, fire, or medical professionals if there's an emergency. You can set it up yourself in under an hour. Just peel and stick the sensors exactly where you need them. No technician required. And there's no contract, no pushy sales guys, no hidden fees, no fine print. All this starts at $15 a month. I'm not the only one who thinks Simply Safe is great. U.S. News & World Report named it the best overall home security of 2020. Try Simply Safe today at simplysafe.com/speak. You get free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial. There's nothing to lose. That's simplysafe.com/speak.
But let's move to the Lakers, who were blown out last night by the Thunder. LA already locked up the 1 seed in the West, and LeBron is out for tonight's matchup against the Rockets with a sore groin. But the Lakers continue to struggle with their shots, scoring only 86 points last night, their lowest point total all season. After the game, LeBron James said they're dealing with something they've never been through before. Take a listen.
This is a totally different situation than any other situation I've been in my career. So I have zero experience with having the number 1 seed inside of a bubble during seeding games, playing in August. So, this is all a learning experience for all of us, and we're going to take it day by day, continue to work our habits either on the floor, during the film session when we're able to get on the floor as well. But this is a totally different season, a totally different, drastic situation for all of us, including myself.
Drastic indeed. I'm joined by NBA champion and LeBron's former teammate Tristan Thompson and my guy Slick Rick Bucher. But Tristan, I'm going to start with you, bro. Are you worried about the Lakers' performance in the bubble so far?
No, not at all. Like you said, they got the number 1 seed. What's there to be worried about? Number 1 seed. I approach these games in the bubble right now as fine-tuned, tuning up. I think at the end of the day, they got AD and LeBron, 2 top 5 players in our league. Right now, it's about the role players getting adjusted. They did add, JR and Dion to their team, and, you got Markieff Morris. They got to figure out, rotation lineups. And I think, from experience, when LeBron would sit out games, it gave role players opportunities to, do more and get more shots. Like you see with Danny Green, he hasn't been shooting the best from 3, and guys have been out of rhythm. So with LeBron sitting out against the Rockets, it's more opportunity for guys to get shots up and play their game. And I'm not worried about that at all.
Man, I hate to disagree with the guy who I have so much respect and admiration for, a guy who I went to college with. But Tristan, I give you a reason to be worried. You said, what's there to be worried about? How about Lakers worse than points per game in the bubble, worse than field goal percentage in the bubble, worse than three-point percentage in the bubble, worse than three-point percentage and free throw percentage in the bubble? There's a lot to be worried about. And I understand basketball is different than other sports. I understand that the Lakers already got the 1 seed locked up. Maybe they're just practicing. Well, practice doesn't make perfect, contrary to common belief. Perfect practice makes perfect. And the Lakers right now, even if it's just exhibition, meaningless games to them, it's really not a good thing to go out and put out the performances they have. AD and LeBron, we know that they drive the team. We know they're the driving force to the team. But AD and LeBron put out their worst field goal percentage yesterday and second worst to the game against the Clippers 2 games ago. So Lakers, I am concerned, not because of maybe the long-term meaning, the long-term implications, but if you're looking at the right here, right now, LeBron, he doesn't necessarily have anything to play for right now, if you will. But AD, everybody questions whether or not he can show up in the fourth quarter. He probably got something to play for. Deion Waiters, he's still getting into things. J.R. Smith, he hasn't played meaningful or any minutes all season. He has a reason to play. So while Lakers fans can take the easy out and say, hey, they got the 1 seed locked up, they got nothing to play for, I'm worried because everybody except for LeBron, these games should mean something.
Yeah, I don't have a problem pushing back against Tristan because we didn't go to school together, so I'm good here. And I'm going to have to because I'm worried because LeBron is worried. LeBron is now talking about, I've never been a number 1 seed in the bubble. Guess what? Nobody else has either. I'm not hearing Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks talking about being a number 1 seed and being in a bubble and never face that. And they've suffered a couple of bad losses as well. Now, I don't put a whole lot on the fact that they lost to the Thunder. Let's face it. They had locked up the number 1 seed. It doesn't mean whatever these seeding games mean, it meant even less. So I'll give you a pass on that. But I am concerned about the fact that LeBron is now talking about things in the bubble that he doesn't want to talk about. Well, if you don't want to talk about them, then don't bring them up. Like, I need to believe that you, LeBron, believe in this team. When you start to talk about things that aren't going your way in the bubble after being the number 1 seed, that suggests to me that there's something deeper than just a loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder going on. So am I worried? Yes, I'm worried because LeBron sounds worried.
Slick Rick, I love your hair. I love your hair. You look good. You look clean.
Uh-oh, he coming for you, Slick.
He coming for you, Slick. But I will say this. There's a method to the King's madness. Let's just say that. This guy is a scientist, and everything he says is a bigger plan behind it. I know you're saying right now that, yes, he might sound nervous, but the King is just doing that just to challenge his teammates. He's just, at the end of the day, for the documentary, when it's all said and done for him, and he wins the championship, if he does, with his Laker team, we're gonna pull back them coats. It's all part of his recipe. I think at the end of the day, for LeBron and AD, yes, these games don't matter, but I think for those other guys, it means a lot, and I think that's the opportunity that he's given them. I remember for us, Rick, you'd probably talk about it too. You remember our record when LeBron wouldn't play? It was me, Kyrie, K-Love. Our record, what were we, like 2-18? And everyone would say, "Oh man, it's terrible. Like these guys can't win games without LeBron, and they're gonna fall short when they get to the playoffs and when they play against a team that can slow LeBron down. This team's in a struggle, but what do we do every year? Get to the finals. Because one thing about LeBron, he's gonna elevate everyone's game. And for guys like Danny Green, Kuzma, Deion, JR, Dwight Howard, even when they get Rondo back, this opportunity right now is for them to just sharpen that knife because, LeBron's gonna sit out a couple games and AD might only play 30 minutes, but when it gets to the playoffs, Rick, Bron's playing 44 minutes, AD's playing 40. So right now, I'm looking at this opportunity as like if it was myself, me, Shumpert, JR, Deli, we got to get our shots up. We got to get ready. We got to get in rhythm because once that playoffs hits, when the matchups come, we got to be ready to come in and produce.
But here's my problem with what you're saying, Tristan, because here is why I'm worried. LeBron more than ever has had to put the load on him and AD's shoulders. You talk about the dudes who have to sharpen the sword back in your day, whether it was JR, whether it was Deli, whether it was yourself. Well, the dudes on the Lakers who got to sharpen their sword, they ain't sharpening it. Danny Green, what is he, 2 for 15 from beyond the arc in his last 3 games? The playoffs are finna sneak up in the next 2 weeks. And unlike ever before, there was a quick on-ramp from starting the bubble season to getting into the playoffs. I think sooner or later, it can't just be, LeBron's going to right the whole ship because LeBron has had more help than he's ever had. If you're the Lakers, you can already assume LeBron's going to do his thing, get a triple-double, if not near a triple-double. But sooner or later, I feel like you got to be concerned about the other guys because the other guys aren't showing up. That's where my main point of contention and main point of concern is.
I'm right there with you. And to your point, Tristan, yeah, you guys had certain guys who were unproven or hadn't done it yet, and they needed to come through. But there's a certain dog about guys that you say, okay, they haven't been there before, but I have the faith that when they face the moment, that they're going to be able to answer the bell. And I don't want to take it away from a guy like Danny Green. He's done it. And he does, as you have said, like there's guys, J.R. Smith, Danny Green, they have championship DNA. You know who else has championship DNA? Bill Russell and Bob Cousy and any number of guys. And what's the comparison? Don't you get old at some point and the mind is willing, but the body can't deliver it. And I feel as if there's some guys that are standing next to LeBron that you're looking at and saying, well, you know, they've got championship pedigrees. Okay, but there was a reason that J.R. Smith wasn't on a team this year until the Lakers got to a point where they were so injured, they said, hey, let's go get somebody who knows how to play with LeBron, and let's hope he can catch some of that old magic. I need to see either some of the young guys, Kyle Kuzma, demonstrate, you know what, this moment isn't too big for me, this responsibility isn't too big for me, or one of the old guys to show me they can be what they were back when they weren't old. And I'm just not seeing it at this point.
Here's what else I need to see, Slick. I need to see the Lakers have a guy like Tristan who gave him 16 and 15 in Game 6 back in 2016. Shout out to you, Tristan. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself, presented by Hyundai. Let's move to that bad man, Aaron Rodgers, who was left scratching his head and drinking tequila when the Packers drafted Jordan Love in the first round. Matt LaFleur caused more confusion, saying recently he wants Rodgers in Green Bay for a really long time. Well, our very own Jay Glazer says the Packers might even have a bigger issue, as they, quote, might have Aaron Rodgers fatigue? I'm joined once again by my guys, Mark Slayers and LeVar Arrington. LeVar, I'm going to start with you, big bro. Would you blame the Packers if they had Aaron Rodgers fatigue?
No, I wouldn't blame the Packers, but I would blame LaFleur. All right. And I'm blaming the coach because the only reason why this type of narrative would ever become a real topic and a real issue to be discussed with Aaron Rodgers' body of work would be from someone who doesn't understand it from being there. And I think that this is a classic case of a new coach feeling a certain type of way and making sure that as you're walking, you're throwing down seeds and making sure that you throw enough down that maybe some of them will grow and won't get ate up by bugs or by birds and different things like that. So I don't think I blame the Packers because I don't think this is a Packers feeling. I think this is a new head coach's feeling that's taking place with this thought process. So I blame the head coach.
I'm going to go even bigger scale, and I'm going to say I do, in fact, blame the Packers, LeVar, because how do you have Aaron Rodgers fatigue? Do you have fatigue of winning? Do you have fatigue of success? Right. Do you have fatigue of 10-win seasons? Like, somebody has to make this make sense for me. Talk about this. Since 2008, Aaron Rodgers, top 5 winning percentage of all quarterbacks. The names on that list, you ask. Peyton Manning, Hall of Famer. Tom Brady, Hall of Famer. Russell Wilson, Hall of Fame. Ben Roethlisberger, Hall of Fame. So Aaron Rodgers is on a list with the elite. Aaron Rodgers, since he got into the league, all-time passer rating leader. One of 2 players over the last decade to win multiple MVPs. So to have Aaron Rodgers fatigue is seemingly mindless. Now, I'm going to keep it real with y'all because that's what we do here on Speak. Aaron Rodgers is a headache. I get that. But most greats are typically headaches. The dude has had family issues we've heard about and haven't heard about. The dude has had all types of drama. Dude comes with a big ego. But when you think about all the greats, what greats don't come with an ego? Tom Brady, before he ever had this new social media manager and started busting all these jokes on Twitter and IG, nobody really liked him all that much either. He was throwing his helmet here. He was breaking his iPad there. So Aaron Rodgers, sure, may he be a problem? A little bit. But sometimes winning, it comes with a small headache. Pop you a Tylenol, pop you an Advil, and you keep winning these 10-win seasons and keep it moving.
Indeed.
Yeah, all I know is Aaron Rodgers can play. And when you can play, you know what? You put up with a headache or two.
Fact.
Do they have fatigue? Of course they have fatigue. You know, I'll go back to Peyton Manning when he came to Denver. I had a coach tell me the thing about playing with or coaching Peyton Manning is he is such a stickler for details that he never stops. And if you block something a certain way, he'll say, are we going to do it that way every time? We're going to do it that way in October, November, December, January. Is that the way we're going to do it? And he'll pester you until you change it to the way he wants it done, or he'll just say, hey, wait a minute, whoa, back in September, we did it this way. You said we're going to do it this way. You can't change now. He'll pester you into just essentially going, okay, Peyton, what is it that you want? when you have that much experience, and I know this about the offense that he's playing in right now, there are a lot of call it and run it principles to that offense. Aaron Rodgers is going, wait a minute, I've played in this league forever. When I see something I want to change, I should have the freedom to change it regardless of what the call from the head coach was. So I understand the fatigue aspect of that. You put up with that when your quarterback is that skilled and that talented, and you find a way to make that work because he's Aaron freaking Rodgers, for crying out loud.
Make it work. Well, speaking of headaches, let's move on to Antonio Brown, whose next destination could be in Baltimore. Now, Lamar Jackson, reigning MVP, already said he was still hoping the Ravens would sign AB. Now AB's own cousin, Marquise Hollywood Brown, star receiver for the Ravens, he said, quote, I feel like he could fit in this locker room. Now, AB is still facing an 8-game suspension when the 2020 season starts. LeVar, we going back to you. Are the Ravens the best fit for Antonio Brown?
They're a great fit, but not the best fit. I look at the youth on that Ravens team, and listen, Lamar Jackson is from Florida. AB is an iconic figure from Florida. And when you think about possibly what that could bring in terms of the influence of AB being there, I do not say this as a detracting statement to Lamar and his ability to lead and where he's at. I just think having more of a veteran, savvy, established guy in the league to go along with that solid organization that you have is Seattle. I think a guy like AB would have his best fit with a guy like Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson as the leaders of a team. And I think that it would create a balance for him. I think it would be a safe place for him. And I think the environment would give him the opportunity to thrive and really kind of continue to find himself.
See, LeVar, I like where you were going with that, but you're wrong. Because if you think about Seattle, it's like mixing oil and water when you talk about Russell Wilson and AB. You saw Russell Wilson's video yesterday. Corny as can be. Now, dude can still throw tugs, but dude is kind of corny at times. When you think about Baltimore, that whole city, that whole swagger, that whole style, it fits and it meshes with AB.
Could be a problem.
It could be, but it could be a dream.
Corny could be good.
Who else, bro?
Could be good.
Who else can corral AB, I feel like, than a team that's already allowed to be themselves? Not only Lamar, not only Hollywood, not only Mark Ingram, but I think of Harbaugh. Over the course of Harbaugh's coaching career, think of the cast of characters he has to corral to win a championship. A man by the name of Ray Lewis. Then you got T-Sizzle. Then you got probably the best field goal kicker all time in Justin Tucker, who I played with in college, and the dude sings opera in the shower, literally. So you're talking about a guy, a coach in Harbaugh, who has found a way to let his cast of characters be them and play at a high level. Now you look at the team this past year. Lamar Jackson, he hasn't changed. Hollywood, he hasn't changed. Mark Ingram, he hasn't changed. I do think that Baltimore might actually be the most ideal fit for AB because it's a place and a team that not only needs his production on the field. I think 42% of Lamar's passes were targeted to tight ends last year. So Lamar needs the help. AB can provide the help. And then within the locker room, I think that might be one of 2 to 3 locker room cultures, and I'll give you the Seahawks as another one. That might be one of 2 to 3 locker room cultures that actually will be a place where AB can survive and thrive.
I would agree with that aspect of it. I think it's a horrible fit, but I agree with it from the John Harbaugh aspect or even the Pete Carroll aspect. And can that locker room handle an AB, and can it be a great place for him to thrive? Absolutely, until they run it 52 times and throw it 13 times. And then I would say to you, what's going to happen now? I create videos for my crew when I'm calling games for Fox. And one of the things I did is I created a video of this offense, and I call it a heavy spread offense. And one of the things they do, I'll split a line right down the middle from the center, and there'll be a pretty balanced formation, right? You'll have 5 guys on one side, 5 guys on the other, and a deep safety in the middle of the football field. And all of a sudden, Baltimore will shift the tight end, motion a receiver over there, and then next thing you know, they've got 6 on 4 or 7 on 5 on that side. That's what they do. They do it as well or better than anybody else. So to me, I look at that and go, what happens when all of a sudden Antonio Brown, he may have 4 catches, and it may be for 4 for 4 for 112 yards and a touchdown, but he's only getting 4 targets. I don't think that sits well with Antonio Brown over a course of 6, 7, 8 weeks. So I don't think the fit with what they're doing offensively is a fit for Antonio Brown.
Well, here's where I actually disagree with you. Remember, AB early in his career, I think he had things confused, right? When he was in Pittsburgh, I think AB thought he was the star. He thought it was about him jumping on goalposts, doing this, doing that. But really, it was Big Ben's team. There's no confusion about whose team it is now in Baltimore with the Ravens. Reigning NFL MVP. It's Lamar Jackson's team. Envy and jealousy, they would come if you see another receiver balling, Mark, but AB's not going to see another receiver balling. If anybody balling, it's going to be Mark Andrews or one of them tight ends. So I actually think that it helps AB to be on a team where, yes, there's only one football, but that one football is in the hands of the MVP. There's not going to be any discrepancy. There's not going to be any misunderstanding about whose team it is. We all know it's Lamar Jackson's team.
So when Mark Andrews has more catches than AB, he's fine with that.
I think
Wrong.
I think he's more fine than that. He's more fine with that than when another receiver goes out there and gets the 15 targets, because the name of the Baltimore's game is feed the running game, throw the ball between the hashes to the tight ends. Lamar Jackson don't even complete passes really outside the hashes. I think he's more fine with that.
I hear you, training wheels. I hear you, baby boy.
Let's talk the king, LeBron James, whose Lakers were blown out last night by the Thunder. The Lakers were rolling before the layoff over 4 months ago. Maybe a day off will help LeBron. The Lakers say he'll be out tonight against the Rockets with a soreness in his groin. But check out LeBron's stats inside the bubble and before the layoff. His points, assists, and shooting percentage are all down compared to the first part of the season. That's problems if you ask me. But I'm joined once again by my guys Tristan Thompson and Slick Rick Bucher. Tristan, I'm going to you first, bro. Was the layoff bad for LeBron?
No, not at all. I think I approach LeBron like some fine wine. You know, when you get wine at the restaurant, you open it up. They pour you do the little smell, and you're like, put it in the decanter, let's sit a little bit. It's like fine wine. It gets better over time. So with LeBron getting all this time off, I think it's good for him. Of course, like you said, the numbers are down comparably to the beginning of the season before COVID hit. But I think for LeBron, he's told me himself. I remember when he came back from that back injury when he missed in 2015 a couple of games, he's like, double T. I just need like 4 to 6 games, get my legs underneath, get my rhythm, then I'm good to go. So my approach is the same thing. So what I tell Lakers fans is like, don't worry, he's gonna be just fine. Like, he just need a couple games, get his feet underneath him. We know how great he is. He's going to be ready to go when the playoffs hits.
I do think it was bad for LeBron, Tristan, and I'm not a drinker, my guy, so your fine wine analogy, it means nothing to me, sir. But here's what does mean something. Let me give you this, Tristan. If you park your car in a garage on empty, and then you go back into that same garage 3 months later with that car, assuming gas will be filled up in the tank, you'll be wrong. Because if you leave the car parked on empty and you go back 3 months, just because it's sat for a while, don't mean it's ready to be driven now. At this point in time, I'm worried. I'm a little bit concerned that LeBron is like that parked garage. Yes, he had the months off. He had the time off. We realized at 35, getting up there in age, that LeBron could have used that time to recover. But when you come back and you're averaging nearly 7 points less, when you come back and you're averaging nearly 4 assists less a game, I'm a little concerned. Because sooner or later, LeBron will just start to decline drastically. Now, I'm not saying that's where we're at right now, but I just can't keep betting optimistically that, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal because eventually it's going to be a big deal. This was a stat, though, Tristan, that threw me off the most. This is LeBron's worst 4-game stretch that we've seen since 2015. Just look at the numbers. 19 points, shooting 42% from the field, and 21 is that, 27% from 3. We haven't seen LeBron play this bad except one other time in the last decade. So to me, it might take 4 to 6 games, as you say, and I understand you have to speak positively about LeBron. I get that. But me, I'm concerned, bro. I'm concerned.
Acho, you do realize that when you throw a dime to a cat and he doesn't make the shot, you don't get an assist for that. So
passer make shooter. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. Tristan, correct me if I'm wrong. I heard passer make shooter growing up. Maybe it changed in the NBA.
Hey, all I know is there are a lot of open shots being missed by the Lakers right now, and LeBron's probably not getting the assist that he deserves for what he's doing. I don't see anything drastically different in LeBron's game and what he's doing. I see a drastic difference in the competition. Let's face it, they've played 4 teams that are all bona fide playoff teams in Oklahoma City and Utah and Toronto and the Clippers. And if you look at what LeBron did during the regular season, this is LeBron in particular and the Lakers in general, is they fattened up on the teams that they were supposed to beat, but they weren't nearly as good against the best of the best on a consistent basis. And I'll give you this. The teams that LeBron averaged 30-plus against this year during the season, Atlanta, Chicago, Cleveland, Minnesota, San Antonio, New Orleans, what do they all have in common? They're not playoff teams. So he took advantage of the teams that he could take advantage of. The Lakers took advantage of the teams that they could take advantage of. They were 2-4 against the best teams in the West. 3-3 against the best teams in the East.
See, Tristan,
Yes.
let me put you on some game, Tristan. You got to watch Slick. He gets the name Slick for a reason. At first, he started speaking some truth, but then I started noticing too many lies. Slick, the 4 games before the break, who LeBron and them beat? Didn't he beat the Bucks? Didn't he beat the Clippers? Didn't he beat teams that are legitimate playoff teams? Didn't he have, 32 points, 29 points, 28 points? So you can't act like LeBron wasn't playing great against great teams, or that the only reason he's not playing great now is because the competition got. Come on, Slick.
And where were we at that point in the scope of the season? We were still early March. We weren't getting ready to jump into the playoffs. These teams that have something to play for now, they are putting it to it, and they're giving their A game. And this has always been my concern about the Lakers. I think that LeBron and the Lakers in general have made the most out of what they are on a consistent basis the entire season. But a lot like the old San Antonio Spurs and the Utah Jazz, and we'd look at their regular season records and we go, you know what? They're back. We killed them too soon. And then we'd get to the playoffs and they couldn't go to that next level. That's my concern with the Lakers. I think they're good. I don't know that they're good enough to beat the A teams when they play their A games.
Rick, I'm going to stop you right there. Come on now. We know something about King James. When the brights are light, I know we don't got the fans
Tristan,
to get them going.
I'm not disagreeing with LeBron. You're right on LeBron. This has been our show today. LeBron's going to bring it. Does he have enough around him to help him at this point?
Of course. 100% he has enough. He has enough. Guys are showing you throughout the course of the season of having big games. You see Kyle Kuzma having 25. You see Dwight Howard getting double-doubles and giving Jokic a hard time on a national televised game. They have the pieces. They have the guys. They have Dion. They have all these players. Danny Green only averaging 6 points in the playoffs, having 18 against Golden State in Game 3. These guys have had big moments throughout the season and throughout their career. These guys are able to do that. There's no question that the proof is in the pudding. We see it day in and day out. I've experienced it. We had Dellavedova averaging 4 points. Then he has 21 against Steph Curry in the finals. We've seen these numbers. We see Tristan Thompson average 8 and 8, then averaging a double-double and ending the Atlanta Hawks' dynasty, winning 16 games.
I haven't seen Kyle Kuzma. I haven't seen Alex Caruso.
I like the third-person reference, though. That's what I like. Hey, Tristan Thompson saying we've seen Tristan Thompson. I respect that, Tristan. You're getting comfortable. You're getting comfortable. Well, from one GOAT to another, let's talk Tom Brady next. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Tom Brady said today that changing teams has given him the opportunity to figure out what he wants to do next in his career. It's time to bring in Uncle Jimmy. So, what's Brady's motivation now, man?
Hey, man, you know what?
What up, Unc?
Tom Brady on that stuff, man.
Uh-huh.
I know for a fact, man, Tom Brady, 43 years old.
Yeah.
I looked at him in that press conference, man. He looked younger than you, Ocho.
Did he?
Hey,
Younger
man,
than me?
you know what? Hey, that's why he called it TB12.
Yeah.
He looked like a tiny boy, 12 years old, man. You know, man, that boy done went down there and found a fountain of youth. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, let me tell you something, man.
What up, Aunt?
Hey, I got this moment to tell you. This is why ain't nobody but me and you, man. I like you, man. You one of them good brothers that say things to people like, the flaw to your logic is, which is it's a polite way of saying, and this is why you're a dumbass. I love that about you, man. Keep that up, man. You a good brother, man.
Hey,
I love you. You keep this up.
Hey, regardless of what Marcellus says, you a real one, okay? You a real one. Hey, that's it for us.